evening, everybody. I am Nirmallo Dev from SteelMint. I welcome you all to this latest edition of SteelMint's webinar series. Our topic today is the much anticipated upcoming second phase of the mines auctions in Odisha and what the industry, of course, can expect from the auctions. After the successful auction of 19 iron ore blocks last year, the Odisha government has issued notice inviting tenders for e-auction of 11 mineral blocks, including 7 new blocks for grant of mining lease. Of the 11 blocks offered for auction, 7 are iron ore blocks, 2 iron ore and manganese blocks, 1 iron ore and dolomite, and 1 bauxite blocks. The last date for purchase of tender documents is August 19, 2021, and the last date for submission of the bids is August 24. Of the new iron ore blocks, Gandhalpada in Keonjhar has reportedly the highest ore reserves. I would now like to take the opportunity of introducing the distinguished speakers for today's session. The speakers are Dr. Umesh Chandra Jaina, Joint Director of Mines, Odisha, Mr. Shomesh Bishwas, Chief Raw Material Strategy and Planning, Tata Steel, and Mr. Ramakrishna Chinnamasetti, Head of Mining and Business Development, AMNS India, and Nishtha Mukherjee, GM Pricing and Index, SteelMint. A very warm welcome to all of you. First of all, I would like to request Nishtha ji to commence today's proceedings with her inaugural presentation. Over to you, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Please allow me to share my screen. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, before we start with what do we expect from the second round of mine auctions, let's have a very quick recap of the Mines Auction 2020. So, in the year 2020, wherein 19 iron ore mine blocks were put up for auction, which includes the iron ore and manganese ore blocks as well, 14 mines had started production. 2 of them have not started production yet, and the remaining 3 have been put up for the second phase of auction, which includes the ones which were won by Fomento, Vishal LPG, and Tarama Apartment. If we talk about the production scenario, in FY20, Odisha's total iron ore production was recorded around 145 million ton, out of which production from auction mining leases was roughly around 71 million tons, and that from the non-auction mines was around 74 million tons. So, as we all know that the target production was laid around 80% of the last 2 years' production. So, the target production for auction mining leases in the year FY21 was around 51 million tons. But unfortunately, due to the unavoidable circumstances of first wave of COVID and the time lost in transfer of ownership and other related issues, the production that could be achieved was just 26 million tons. On the other hand, we saw a sharp increase in the iron ore production from the non-auction mining leases. They recorded a production of 81 million tons in FY21 against 74 million tons in FY20. Now let's have a quick recap of the Indian iron ore industry in FY21 and FY22 forecast. So in the year FY21, we saw the total iron ore production of India falling by roughly 17% on YOY basis to 204-203 million tons roughly. Well, if I talk about the iron ore exports, which includes both iron ore and pellets, so the total exports were recorded roughly around 60 million tons. The sharp increase of 60% year-on-year basis in exports was due to the high global prices, plus the active liquidation of stocks from the auction mining leases in Odisha that was seen. While on the other hand, imports witnessed a decline of roughly 39% on YOY basis and was recorded at around 0.8 million tons. If we talk about the forecast for FY22, Steelmint expects that the iron ore production would roughly be around 245 to 255 million tons. Well, we expect that production will increase, and especially from Odisha, where we expect that the production would increase to roughly 135, 140 million tons. If we talk about Odisha, then yes, the key driver could be OMC, who has already, doubled its EC limit at its Datari mines from 3 to 6 million tons, and also plans to raise its EC limit at Gwali mines, say, to around 30 million tons per annum. Apart from that, we are also hearing that the ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel Sagasahi block is also expected to commence production soon. And of course, the other majors like SAIL, Tata, JSW also continue to ramp up the production, which we expect will raise the total production of India to 245 to 255 million tons. If I talk about the other states, then of course, like Chhattisgarh and Karnataka would also witness an increase in the production volumes, especially from NMDC, with the Donimalai mines resuming operations in Karnataka and the C category mines also ramping up operations. We expect that production from other two states like Chhattisgarh and Karnataka will also witness an increase. If we talk about export sentiments, so we expect the combined exports of iron ore and pellets to be roughly around 50-55 million tons. We have recently seen a slight decline in the export bookings. This is again due to the Chinese steel production cuts and the drop in the global iron ore prices, which have recently fallen around $180 CFR China mark. And of course, iron ore imports will continue to remain on the lower side, given that the preference to the domestic ore continues. Well, talking on the price front, we feel that the prices in Odisha have already peaked a lot, and we see less room for a further price hike. If we see the price chart, then from April 2020, the prices for fines Fe63 grade have increased from 2000 levels in April 2020 to roughly 9,000, 10,000 levels that they are hovering currently. Now, with the next list of mines auction in place, we have Odisha, which has already announced the next phase of auction and has lined up 10 iron ore blocks, out of which 4 are expired leases and remaining are the virgin mines. Apart from this, Chhattisgarh government is also likely to put up an auction for 8 iron ore, 8 limestone blocks as well over the 3 months. Jharkhand has also, recently put up an auction for the Ajitaburu iron ore block, although the final decision is pending and it's sub judice. But yes, we can expect increasing availability of iron ore in the coming time in the Indian industry. So that is all that I had to present from my end. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Nishta ji. Thank you so much for that data-intensive presentation. It was very insightful as well. Now, I would like to gather some valuable insights from Dr. Jaina. But before that, I should introduce him to our audience in as briefly as possible. Essentially, a mining engineer, Dr. Jaina got his PhD in mining engineering from Collins University in Columbia, USA. Currently, he is working in the Department of Steel and Mines, Government of Odisha, and is presently posted as Joint Director of Mines, State Head, ITPMU Bhubaneswar in the Directorate of Mines. I would now request Dr. Jaina to start his brief address. Sir, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is a privilege to attend this seminar webinar, and I'm quite privileged to address you people. In fact, Madam Mukherjee has presented very nicely. She has put the insights of the mining sector as well as the iron ore availability in India as a whole. So far India is concerned, I will recap the issues of last auction. 19 blocks were auctioned. 24 blocks in fact were auctioned and 19 were executed. And of those, 6 leases has miserably failed. They have not achieved the 50%, even 50% of the dispatch, targeted dispatch was whatever mentioned in the MDPA. They did not reach 50% of that. And 9 blocks have, in fact, achieved 100%. And remaining 5 blocks have achieved plus 50%, but they have not achieved the 100%. In fact, the reasons may be many, including this COVID situation, as well as the logistics availability and the infrastructure around the mine area. But I express my kudos to those who have really achieved and who have tried and failed. But all 19 leases have produced and dispatched as much they could have done. The penalty structure, as you know, that those who have failed, they will have to pay the premium of the targeted quantity, and 24% of their security will also be appropriated. So that is a huge task on them. Those iron ore leases who have failed miserably, mostly are Narvaram and Sirajuddin and others. It will be a Herculean task to continue their lease by paying so much of penalty and your premium. What would be charged? The demand notice is in process. It will be issued soon. So this is the scenario, and the present auction, whatever the schedule has already been expressed, it will be ending on maybe 16th of September. The first auction, upward auction would be, second phase of auction would be on 17th of September. That will be continued. We'll see the convergence. There should be no convergence of the bidders, so that the schedule will be like that. That means if same bidder is in the fray for one or more than one block, then the schedule will be one after one. And if there would be no, say, for bauxite, separate bidders would be there, and for iron, separate bidder would be there, then we can take the bauxite one with some iron ore block. So likewise, it will be seen only after the examining the bidders who are in fray. That should not be covered. Convergence of bidders into any single auctions. So that would be scheduled sooner. The pre-bid, the technical bid would be finalized, and the financial bid IPO would be opened. Thereafter, we will schedule this phase of auctions. About the changes that has been incorporated in the amendment, the significant changes at section 5, the net worth issue was always there. It has been reduced to 200 maximum. It will be 0.5% of the estimated value of the resource to the maximum extent of 200 crores. That is a good relief to the prospective bidders. The security, the bid security is also reduced to 50 crores only for iron ore. And the other significant change is the section 6. The maximum limit is 58 square kilometer for iron ore and 50 square kilometer for bauxite. And for the rest, it is 10 square kilometer. The most significant change is that during auction, if a successful preferred bidder would not pay the security deposit, he will not be declared as successful bidder, and the second highest bidder would be given an opportunity to quote the as much the first bidder has quoted, and if he will say yes and he will pay the security, then the auction would be continued, and the second highest bidder would be given the opportunity of taking that lease. That is the best thing because auction is a Herculean task for the government to conduct. So it will help us and help the second entrepreneur to take that from the first bidder. And these are the all significant changes, and a little bit of changes on the prospecting aspect, that the G3 blocks would be put for auction hereafter. Of course, G3 of those minerals which are deep-seated, like iron ore, limestone, like that. And for the other minerals, the same earlier rule prevails, that G4 would be the primary need for the auction. And for composite license, that is PL cum ML, it is G4 level. These are the significant changes which have come under the amendment of 2021. The MBMC rule, auction rule, mineral concession rule, all has been amended on these aspects in 2021. So these are that is what the scenario is here. And the present auction, we have seen more than 60 entrepreneurs had attended the pre-bid, and a lot of people, in fact, put their queries beyond the limit. The limit was 12th noon of 27th, but people pour in queries thereafter also, but they were debarred. They were not allowed because Odisha government felt that it would stick to the timeline. So I would be requesting through this August channel that whosoever are interested, they are required to be in time in the whatever they need to upload or apply, they should do it online in the time prescribed, so that there would be no problem thereafter. The response is very good. 62 attended, and 20 more were not allowed to attend. So it is almost 80 plus persons or entrepreneurs who were interested, who have shown interest for this blocks which are in play. So we would expect that the auction would be fruitful, and sooner the auctions will be completed for those 4 leases which were earlier held by some lessees. Those will be handed over in a month's time. The significant change in the MMDR Act also that the statutory clearances should be valid till the mineral is exhausting. So till the mineral exhaust means the mineral, irrespective of the lessee, the statutory clearance would be on the lease. So it will be vested upon the new lessee. So there will be no delay for getting those power leases operational. So that is a good sign. But for those virgin blocks, 7 virgin blocks, it would take time to get all these clearances. Of course, Odisha is a premier one. The Sagasai has been executed, although it took more than 5 years. But it has been a good indication that it has been executed and they are on job. And a good company is working on that. That they would get the mines soon operated, and production level would be increased and enriched by the operation of that mines. OMC, of course, has geared up. They have got 2 very good leases apart from their own leases, Gwali and Jilling. They have been working very hard, and they would be supplementing the need of the iron ore to the nation. Surely they have been working hard, and they will be getting to their job. So till yesterday, till the end of the July, our production level of iron ore is 55 million ton. So we expect that it will be around 170 million ton at the end of the year if this pace of production goes on like this. And dispatch is also at par. It would be around 160. Madam was telling her she would be happy for 135, but I assure it would be more than 150 surely. And we expect that it should be 160 plus. The dispatch would be also at par. So that's all what can I put in this forum. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jaina, for your very informative address. Sir, one or two questions I would like to ask you, because these are very hotly debated topics in the current market scenario. Sir, is there any update on the easing of stacking norms for miners in Odisha, especially the auction mines?
No, this the stacking term is that we are proposing for 20,000 ton stocks, and the online system of verification of verification stock and sampling of those stocks that has been developed, and it will be very nice, and the world will be amazed to see that the software has been developed in such a manner that the system will be active only on approaching that site. So whatever was told earlier that the verification was not done in the field and some malified practice was going on, so those will be, in fact, be eradicated by this system, because the system would be operative only on approaching the site, and the 20,000 ton stocks would be allowed to be made them, and those will be permitted, and that would make the operators hassles free, and they will be they will get advantage of making larger stocks. So that is yes. In fact, it is piloting in some of auction lease, but it will be rolled out to all the leases.
Okay, sir. Yeah, that was very helpful. Yes, sir. Sir, also the other thing, because we have been discussing this over and over again for a long time, especially since the 2020 auctions, that about the mine development and production agreement and miners not being able to fulfill criteria according to MDP. Sir, the criteria does it consider the dispatch criteria or the production criteria?
Criteria.
Yes.
Yeah. The rules 16A2 of MCR has been amended, and it says that the criteria is on the dispatch, because as you know that mining whatever the principal act, that is MMDR Act, development regulation, and development means not only mining, not only doing mining and keeping the stock on the mine site, but the development would be only on the mineral reaching the destination and getting converted, yielding money or yielding some household goods or materials. That means the iron ore taken out of the lease would be reaching the plant, then plant would make it a household. In a way, the businessman would earn money and the government would earn royalty and taxes. So that is the two sign of development. So very consciously government has put this criteria on the dispatch. So whoever have failed in dispatching, they would be penalized. So as I told in the outset that 9 leases have achieved their target 100%, 6 have failed miserably, less than 50%, and 5 have achieved more than 50, but have not achieved 100%. And they will be penalized. The penalty would be they have to pay premium of the 100% target, whatever target has been fixed as per MDPA, and 24% of their bid security will be appropriated.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But sir, actually, I was just asking you this because, like, there are force majeure situations when this pandemic strikes. Or
you see, as you know, the entire nation, whenever we are stopped, the mining was on. Throughout, the mining was on. Mining has never been stopped right from the start of the pandemic. Even in the March of 20, the mining was open. mining was on. So people are taking the liberty of that, but mining was on. So we are apprehensive of allowing any liberty on the account of the first measure of the pandemic. Government will take a conscious decision, but what I feel that since mining was on throughout, so that is not a cause of any liberty to be given to those who failed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got your point, sir. And sir, one other important subject that I would like to ask you is the concerns that exist about royalty on royalty with the introduction of the National Mineral Index. So, what's your take on?
In fact, it is a subject of IBM, Government of India. We have whatever our comment is on that. The Odisha government has already sent its view to the government. Let Government of India decide on that. Whatever will be decision, we are following that.
Okay, sir. So thank you so much for your comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Jaina from you, Nisha ji?
No, sir. I think all the questions you have asked.
So I would now like to request Mr. Ramakrishna Chinnam Setti to present his address. But before that, I will, of course, introduce him to our audience. Mr. Ramakrishna is an experienced mining engineer with years of experience in the metals and mining industries. He's skilled in corporate affairs, administration, operational risk management, greenfield projects and mining, safety and business improvement. He's an engineering graduate from the College of University College of Engineering, Kothagudam. Sir, I would request you to kindly present your address.
Thank you, team Steelmeet and Dr. Jaina sir and the co-panelists. Good afternoon to all of you. Indeed, the topic is very interesting, and also going forward, it is there are many opportunities for the increase in the production of the present level of the close to 200. If you see that last bidding, the aggressive bidding witnessed, we all witnessed this aggressive bidding in the first phase so far. So total 43 iron ore mines have been auctioned with a majority of these are by Odisha. So Odisha, the 22 and Karnataka around 18. And the Karnataka, most of these 18 out of 18, the C category mines were there. But the resources, reserves wise, it's Odisha is the major chunk. And then the premiums also, we have all witnessed already that there is around minimum 37 to maximum 275% also the bid premium we have seen. The ongoing auctions also, we have to see that actually how aggressively the bidders will bid, and the bidding strategy also, based on the success the previous auction. So definitely it is going to be the interesting to see that actually how it is going to happen, and also the present the blocks with 11 blocks which are already there in the auction front. So these blocks are also interesting to look at, and there are the many potential the virgin and also the working mines. Presently, if you look at the iron ore scenario, and then the coming from the vision 200 million ton of steel, so where we are, and see what is the current level of the crude steel production, and then what is the iron ore requirement present, and future going forward, what is the requirement if you see. So presently we are at 107 the crude steel production, so close to, and iron ore requirement of around 180 million ton. And this is going to be increased, and the optimistic case by, I think, the 2026, FY 2026. So it is going to be around 260 million ton. So iron ore requirement going forward with a visibility of 150 million ton of steel production, crude steel production. And the next, by end of the decade, that is FY 31. So it is going to be around 380 million ton of iron ore requirement, and with a crude steel production of the close to 220. So with this, 300 million ton is the big number and the ambitious plan for the government of India. Then the present, the 67 to 70 kg, the capita of consumption, then it is now expected to be increased by 160. It's almost more than double. And the opportunities are there and the demand is there. So like housing and real estate, public, the other infrastructure, industrialization. So this also led to, so there is a lot of demand for the steel going forward. And evolving technology, the technology also is changing. And the globally already there is the concern that the how to neutralize the carbon. So this is also one of the key concern area. With that, the recycle in the sense the scrap utilization will be more going forward, and that is also good from the perspective of environment and the carbon footprints. And then iron ore wise, if you see that actually in the Odisha this year, 2020, the because of the FY21. Because of the last the transition phase of all the merchant mines which have been auctioned, 19 mines. So there was slightly decrease in the production, but I don't think this will be a big concern, and it is going to be increased soon. And also the if you see that actually so far the 43 mines, almost 2.6 billion ton of iron ore already the resources have been auctioned. And going forward also there are many blocks are coming in the auction, like Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand. So already we are speaking about, and also there are a big expansion plans of the public sector and also the private sector also, particularly the steel producers, and then the expansion of the captive. So it's like going forward, the steel demand and also iron ore demand will be there, continue to be there. So these are the opportunities coming in the last the auction NIT 6th December 2019. So when we look at, so that time, so there were actually many ifs and buts, and but the government of India and government of Odisha has done commendable job. And within 1 year, they streamlined entire system, and the most of the mines would be able to start the production after the execution of the mining lien soon after. So it took some time, 1 month to 40 days, 45 days timeline it took. But however, the government has facilitated to start the production without any the hiccups in the system. So that's that shows that actually the government is intent to make it iron ore availability in the market, and also the secondary or primary steel producers should get the sufficient iron ore for making the steel within India. And but presently, if you look at that, actually we are in the transition phase. So government of India and government of Odisha both are working tandemly and making a lot of changes in the concession rules and act, and then other the documents also. So still, but there are some the factors to be taken care, and including this royalty and royalty. We are talking about last, I think, the 6-7 years, but now it is significant because of the auction. The regime has changed to auction regime, so that is why actually a lot of significant today. So we all talk about that. Government of Odisha already expressed their concern, and then also they submitted the comment. So definitely, I think government of Odisha, India is working towards to resolve the issue. And then the mineral index also is expected to be launched soon, and government of India is working towards that. So this mineral index, if you see that actually once the mineral index is formulated, it's with a certain assumptions and taking the consideration of all the factors which are there in the now gap in the data and also at the pricing front. So definitely these issues are going to be addressed, and then time to time the lot of changes are coming in the act and rules. So this is the major the iron ore the present status, and and going forward, the auctions, even Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh also, as we hear from Nisha also, that the more blocks are coming for auction. So production level definitely is going to be increased. The present the capacity of close to 230 to 140 million tons. So it is going to be increased definitely as the requirement. And there was the sharp increase of the exports. So almost close to 60% of the production level. So this is on account of this transition again, that the gold merchant miners, there was a lot of inventory was there. So that was one of the reason, and also the global iron ore prices. So that is also, but otherwise since we are in the transition phase, and also first time everybody is doing, even government also. So there are a lot of learnings for everyone, the last phase. And with that learnings, so this time definitely it will be a very the opportunity based the bidding, and also the bidding numbers are interesting to see this time, because learnings from the past bidding, and also the level of the MDPA targets and all, now everybody used to, and what is exactly the minor new bidder has to do, and what is the requirement, and everybody comes to know. And also the as you asked already, that on the stocking front also, the Dr. Gina has already explained that they are in the process. So the slowly government also understanding that actually how to, so maybe minimize the risk, and also the associated issues involved for the production and the dispatches. So the 20,000 stock also, they actually pilot basis there, it has been allowed already. So that is also a good move. So with this, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and feel free to ask if any have any questions.
Yes, a couple of questions are from my end.
Yeah.
One thing that I would like to know, that what are our plans for iron ore production from captive mines? Like, when do we plan to start the Sagasahi block, and any target that you would have set for combiningly of Thakurani and Sagasahi block?
See, Sagasai, as Gina sir has already explained that actually, so a lot of cooperation we got from Government of Odisha and Government of India timely, and we could sign this mining lease on the last day of the 5 years timeline. And now we are in the process of the pre-operational activities. So we are already almost close to starting the mining operations. So very soon we are going to start the mine. And this mine is actually the 7 million ton capacity of ROM. And our target is to maximize this, ramp up this production level to 7 million as soon as possible.
Great. And sir, what is your take on the National Mineral Index? Although you stated a couple of comments, but if you could just elaborate, like how it would be beneficial over the current IBM system.
The National Mineral Index, it is actually derived from, again, the coal index are already is there, actually formulated, and it is so it's already followed by the last bidding by the Coal India, the Ministry of Coal. So basically in the coal, that's just a bit different from the iron ore. So coal is actually the today India, so most of the coal is being imported. But whereas iron ore, it is locally produced, and hardly there are any exports. So there is a concern of area that actually how these pricing will be derived, and what is the mechanism. So there are the few already recommendations from the industry, and also from the government side, also the state government side also. So I hope definitely Government of India definitely will look at all the issues, and the concerns raised by the industry, and also the state government. So we'll considering all these the factors. So they will definitely will bring up the new mechanism, that is National Mineral Index. So which takes care of all the issues related to now royalty, and also the IBM prices also, actually. So today we look at always 2 to 3 months the backlog, but nowadays last 6 months it is the almost 45 to within 2 months timeline they are updating the data. So that it's a good move, and also they are also actually the particularly filing of returns. It is all online mode. So the getting the data for them also, it is very easy to consolidate and publish the data. So looking forward for the good move by the Government of India for national index.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Nirmal, is there any questions from your end?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir. No questions at present.
Thank you.
I would now like to come to the last expert on our panel, Mr. Somesh Biswas. Mr. Biswas is heading the raw material strategy of Tata Steel. In 25 years in the industry, Mr. Biswas has the experience of mining to market, as he has worked in different strategy functions, from corporate strategy, steel marketing strategy, and now, of course, the raw material strategy. He also looks after mining block acquisition and engages with government bodies on advocacy for policy reforms. Welcome, Mr. Biswas, to our webinar. Sir, I would now like to request you to briefly make your presentation.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Eminent co-panelists, Dr. Jena and Ramakrishna ji. And good afternoon, all fellow industry leaders, government officials, and analysts who are there in the virtual conference. Thanks, Nirmala, for introducing me as one of the co-panelists. I also thank Steelmint for inviting me to share my thoughts on the upcoming Odisha, and its ongoing Odisha block auctions. So we all know that there has been a roller coaster ride for every industry in FY21. The first half of the year was of doom and gloom, while the second half was of hope and opportunity. And this year, of course, it should be a good one because worldwide there is easing and we are hopeful of the vaccine. And then I hope all of you are in good health, taking precautions and having your vaccine doses. With these words, I would just say that we have been waiting for more than a year and now the auctions have started, as Adam Mukherjee has said. Then it started with the Jharkhand auction, which is subsidized, then Odisha block auctions. And Government of India has actually amended MMDR Act and relevant rules and has been working as per in consultation with the industry for easing the doing of business. Since the allocation of mines as per the transparent and fair way, we have traversed a lot of path and there have been a lot of changes, as we all know. The removal of distinction between captive and merchant mines have been removed. Now we have sale from captive mines is allowed for the 2020 expired leases and also the current expired leases. It has been said that the validity of EC and FC will be extended to the new lessee. There will be no mining lease transfer fees in case of investments or acquisitions. So there have been a number of changes, and also as there are issues that need to be solved because we have understood that there's royalty on royalty, and we all know for so many years we have been talking about it in the industry, and as we have been deliberating right now, Ramakrishna ji was deliberating and believing that the NMI will come and will maybe a panacea, the solution for royalty and royalty. But the thing is that something needs to be done, otherwise the royalty and royalty may graduate to bid premium on bid premium. Bid premium on bid premium may happen if more mines are, all the mines get auctioned. It's by 2030 there will be hardly any captive mines, and only the PSU mines will be there. Slowly the bid premium may happen if NMI doesn't come. But we need to see how NMI actually works, because if you see NCI, the National Coal Index that is there, it talks about 3 channels. 3 channels means 3 channels of coal that is being available in India, which is the notified price of Coal India, the auction price of Coal India, and the import price for the grades of coals that is being used in the Indian industry. So now, if similar things we talked about in mineral, say for iron ore, which is a NMI for iron ore. So what are the prices that are available? Hardly any imports. Some imports are happening fine. So others are basically the commercial miners who are selling. So some are selling through auction, like OMC sells through auction, and then the price discovery happens. That way, that price is they use for their regular sales. So their auction price, they are priced by other lessees. So which comes into the IBM price. So basically, IBM price is the weighted average price for that state, for that grade. And so if that is there already, the weightage of those prices based on the value. So currently the value means price multiplied by the volume. So that is the weights determinant, and we include now import, just like NCI includes import, but import may not be significant, but for certain minerals it may be significant. So the prices, the weighted average price may go up. Okay, the IBM price or the NMI price may be higher. The reference price may be higher. Now, even if we are supposed to bid as a percentage of that price, we never know. And there are issues of NCI in that in coal, when we try to do due diligence, we found out that a coal mine may have 30 years life. Now I don't have the forecast of the NCI of 30 years. And this is an assumption which one need for valuation needs a forecast. So I don't. So similarly, NMI, there will be a black box which nobody will know how to get an estimate it for future, because the risk will be involved in the due diligence and the valuation process for the new assets. So hopefully NMI will solve this problem, but I don't know it is retrospective or not. So the mines that have already been actioned, will it get the reprieve of NMI? Dr. Jaina was saying about the pre-bid conference, and the principal secretary said that government of Odisha has actually objected for retrospective change of rules, because that gives unfair advantage to the winners, and the losers are actually are not. They are losing actually. The rule has changed and that has benefited the winner. Why the losers are not getting benefited? So whether retrospective change of these rules will happen, we don't know. May not be. So whatever mines are being owned will be at a higher price, and some mines will be at a lower price. So the cost. So the cost curve, in a way, we know the global cost curve. So the Indian cost curves are there. There are mines which are at kilobit premium, which are mines which will be at, say, certain percentage of IBM price, and there are certain mines which will be, say, certain percentage of reference price multiplied by the NMI. So we don't know which will be the high cost mines, and the high cost mines will be the right side of the cost curve, and they will have wafer thin margin compared to mines which are the left side of the cost curve, like PSUs and mines which are at a lower cost point. So they will make higher profits. So we need to see and how the implication happens. So there are a lot of conjecture, I would say. I'm not an expert in this area, but we'll wait and observe whether bid premium happens, what happens after NMI is institutionalized, how it implication of the cost positions of the miners, because as we can see, the industry doesn't have much profits to make, and most because of economic unviability. The 5 mines, 3 mines didn't start and 2 mines were transferred, so 5 mines didn't start at all, and the aggressive bidding has taken place. So I will not dwell much, but let's wait and watch and how things pan out in future. Thanks, Nirmala, for asking me to speak on this subject. Yeah. Any questions from your side?
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot. A very perceptive, brief but very perceptive, as usual, from you. Thank you, sir. 1 or 2 questions I would just like to ask you. The 2020 auctions, as we know, as we saw in Odisha, they witnessed very high bids. So, do you believe those very high bids were justified? And is there a possibility of recurrence of high bids this time as well?
Thanks, Nirmala, for the question. The question is the important one, and the whole industry is mulling over it. So it's quite baffling how this aggressive bidding happened, and such high bids are placed. And now the question is whether what is the rationale for those high bids, and whether the same thing will pan out again for this time? The question is very important. The whole industry is looking for the answer, and they've asked me a question that is, I dare to go. But let me try. Let me try with understanding what happens to the cost positions and the profitability of these miners. So recently in the pre-bid conference, the principal secretary said that the whole objective of the MMDR Act is to ensure fair and transparent way of allocation of mineral resources of the country for mineral development and not for profiteering. So now the word is not for profiteering. Now whether the miners will make profit at this high percentage of bid, that's the question, whether they will become economically viable. Because most of the experts say that it has a winner's curse attached to it. So for who have won with such high bids, they have to pay the revenue sharing, that is the bid premium. They have to pay the levies, royalty, DMF, NMT. They have to give the upfront amount also, which is adjusted against revenue sharing once the mine starts, maybe 7 years, 5 years down the line, or if it's expired mines, maybe it's the same year. There is stamp duties to be paid for 50 years, considering highest grade of lump ore. There are land acquisition costs, there are R&R costs, there are wildlife management costs, there are forest clearance costs, which have to be incurred. And the revenue sharing, as we have discussed, that it has, for it to be an actual grade, it has to be stored, for 21 days for ascertaining the grade of the dispatch. Dr. Jana said that a higher volume can be stored, but it requires rehandling. It cannot be directly dispatched as such. It requires rehandling, and the cost structure will not be there. On top of it, there is risk of penalty. Okay, we all know that one has to meet the minimum production requirement on a quarterly basis. Otherwise, there is a penalty attached to it. And for the expired mines, we found out in 2020 there are a lot of unscientific mining that was done by earlier lessee, and there was mine pits are flooded with water, and there are a lot of issues. And it was very difficult to start the mines immediately and achieve 80% of the last year's production. And you also talk about force majeure issues. So in a way, there is risk attached to not meeting minimum production requirement. And so there is hardly any margin on the table left for, in fact, leave the word called profiteering. The profiteering is happening, as I said, on the left side of the cost curve. The miners like OMC, those miners who are actually will match the price. They will not sell at a lower price because they have a lower cost. They will match the price of the high cost mines. Okay, the mines that are actually commercial in nature and have to sell in the market. Now, I'm not talking of mines which are owned and being used by as captive, because they are captive use. So, as we all know, they can use the benefit of downstream to justify the high cost and justify the availability of ore. But for the commercial miners, it's very difficult to justify high bid premiums, as per my understanding. So, if the bidders keep on bidding at high percentage bid, they will remain on the right side of the cost curve. And with wafer thin margin, the banks would not provide capital. The cost of capital in India is very high, not like developed nations or even countries like China, where the inflation is low, the cost of capital is low. So with high cost of debt or a high expectation of equity in India, the expectation of shareholder is a high return. So you want a business at least giving you 20% profit, because 11% debt or 14-15% equity. So the return has to be high. Otherwise, the industry doesn't have the right to grow. If you are burning cash, and you cannot, for an industry like metals and mines, you will not survive. And you have seen the IPC process happening for a lot of metal industries, metal companies. It's not like e-commerce companies where you're burning cash to gain market share, and but your valuations are very high because the future is very, very bright. So to say, we are in an industry which is of high fixed cost, and also the gestation period is very high for capacity additions. So we need to have that profitability. But the design is as such that when you give a revenue sharing in terms of bid premium, you take a certain percentage of the price to the government, plus the levies, that is 16.8% of the price. So there are hardly anything left. And the design is as such that you will not make much profit. It's not like a metal industry. If you go to steel industry, government doesn't charge you say 70% of the steel price as levies. The steel companies give taxes, the goods and services tax. They give their corporate tax also, income tax. So in a way, I'm a bit philosophical, maybe diverging from the topic. But the fact is that the mining, these companies will not profit here. And these companies has to, if you see the government, the Ministry of Mines has been recommending star rating of companies, So they have to spend a lot of money to get those star rating. They have to do sustainable mining. They have to, government desires that they use mineral conservation in terms of say low grade beneficiation. They are supposed to do automation. They are supposed to do digital way of the digital advances that are happening. You want slurry pipelines to actually debottleneck logistics. So all these requires money, and money needs to be there in the to these companies. Otherwise, these investments will not happen. These ratings are very difficult to come. So if that is to be there, then the bidding cannot be aggressive. It's a corollary. It's a corollary is that anti-hypothesis that if you bid high, you cannot do these things. One has to be very pragmatic and bid low and justify the premium so that these costs can be built and can be absorbed. Otherwise, we'll say, and we have that hypothesis that only metal players will win and commercial players will not win the mines, and metal players will justify from their downstream profits. It's like just like the mining industry standing on the shoulder of the metal industry. So, but that would be a very wrong thing to happen, because then mining as a percentage of GDP in India will not increase. So I wish the aggressive bidding will reduce. There are a lot of more mines that are coming up in future. The supply-demand balance of iron ore will change. The Chinese are actually controlling their production. They are reducing their. They have reduced their benefit for their exports. So they want to become net neutral in terms of carbon footprint. So in a way, and the scrap availability is going to increase. The EAF route of steel production is going to increase. That will surely impact the supply demand of iron ore in future. And these mines are not for those 1 year or 2 year. It's for say 10, 15 years, depending on the period capacity. And say Gangalpada, you said 300 million tons of ore is there. So if so much is the life of the mine, so, and these things changes. So one should not get stuck in a high price regime, high cost regime rather, and then it's a bad decision to bid high. So nothing. There's a lot much to say, I would say, but I would resist myself from saying. Yeah. Thanks, Nirmal.
Yeah. So one last question I would like to ask you actually, because we have been speaking about Odisha all the while. So we are not giving adequate importance to Jharkhand side by side. So as Tata Steel, such a big captive player in the Jharkhand iron ore mining space, can you kindly throw some light on the recent Jharkhand auctions? Like what are the most important blocks that we have seen and there have been bidding? Also, the Mineral Corporation of the government is also trying to get blocks. So what light would you like to throw on the Jharkhand auction scenario?
So we all know there are 5-6 mines that expired in 2020 in Jharkhand also, and initially government wants to give it to the PSU, JSMDC, for auction, just like Odisha has OMC. The government wants to give it to, and we came to know from different sources that the Ministry of Mines said first you try to auction it. If there are no interested bidders, then only JSMDC can be allocated. to these mines. And then government of Jharkhand notified this Ajitapuri block, and we are very baffled to see such high bid percentage at the IPO level, by the state government or by the PSU, and then it went to the court. So I will not discuss much on this, Nirmalya, but the fact is that for a government company, if it makes losses, the government will only bail them out, right? The money goes to the government, and I hope the shareholding, I don't know if JSLDC 100% is government. The profit is for government, the losses is for government. So in a way, it's the government only which does, the state government does only the mining. I don't know the stakes. I will not comment much on this. So it's something, yeah.
Naturally. Yes, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Now, Dr. Jena, actually, because you have already highlighted about the status of the 2020, the iron ore blocks that were auctioned in 2020. So can you further, sir, elaborate on the status of the auction blocks that were auctioned in 2020, last year?
First of all, let me clarify what the Principal Secretary told in the PBD conference. He told that the Act is Act is for the development of minerals, not for the development of business. That means that the minerals would be raised, taken out from the list, put it to use, and made some households or usable things. Then it would be contributing to the development of the nation. He elaborated on that. On that way, some may, if somebody is putting a high percentage, it is his will or his intention, and whether he's making profit or not, it is his lookout. Government would see that if it has been taken on a high price, even though the rule has to be abided by the lessee, and he has to pay whatever payables are there to government. And if he fails, whatever penalty clauses are there, that has to be implemented on him, and he has to pay that. So about this 24 blocks was put to auction. As you know, 19 were executed, 5 were not. Of those 5, 2 were given to OMC, that is Jailing and Gwali, and 3 are put to auction now. In this pair, 3 are there, that is Nadidi, both Nadidi Kasara and Nadidi and Terai. So apart from those 19 blocks were executed and all have started production. Of them, 9 blocks have achieved their production and dispatch target, and 5 have crossed 50% of their target, but not reached the 100%. So they will be penalized whatever percentage they have achieved, and whatever is not, those will be computed, and whatever penalty, as I have told, that the penalty would be 100% premium and 24% of the purpose security would be appropriated. And 6 leases have held measurably. Within those 6, Sirajuddin and Narvaram are also there. They have held measurably. They are less than 20%, I think. One is 7%, one is 13%, like that. So whatever action would be appropriate will be taken on those.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, we got these updates from you. Thank you, sir. Actually, my question was about the stocks that are lying at the auction mines, the stocks that need to be cleared out of the auction mines.
Oh.
So what is the status of that?
Those whatever stocks were there, those has been handed over to OMC. OMC has put auction, and some auctioned mineral were found to be of low grade. Whatever was quoted in the paper were not found to be of that grade. So that has been referred back to government, state government. State government has made another committee to see that, and whatever actual grade is there, that will be analyzed, and that will be put to auction again. And about those 7 cases, High Court has allowed to time. High Court has ordered to government to allow time, and the government had allowed 1 month time, with a condition that they would give an undertaking that they would be lifting those within 1 month time. People did not come with that undertaking till 1 month expired. So government has taken over those again, and government would act as per law. And the people have gone to case to the court again, filing some IAs on those. So whatever court will decide, that will be abided.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So with this, we would start fielding questions from the audience. I mean, there are one or two important questions which are there waiting for answers. Dr. Jaina, I would like to ask you, somebody from the audience is asking, can a joint venture company promoted by 2 companies having 100% net worth requirement bid for auction based on net worth of the holding company?
This question was put in pre-video also, and this has been put in writing also. So our principal secretary told that whatever would be replied, that would be put on paper on the website. But I'm indirectly answering that whatever the net worth is being asked, the net worth of the previous year, we are not considering the net worth of this current year. The consideration is on the net worth of the previous year, immediately past year. So if the joint venture has been made prior to 1 year, and if that has been reflected in the net worth of that joint venture company, then they would be allowed, no doubt on that. But if it, intentionally a joint venture is being made now, I don't think that would be allowed, because the rule says that the net worth should be of that limit for the last year.
Yes, yes, okay, sir. Okay, sir. Yeah, clear enough. Yeah, any questions from your side, Nishta ji?
Just a question on the price outlook. I would like to ask Mr. Ramakrishna and Mr. Biswas that on the iron ore pricing front, what do they feel on prices? How far will they go, or they have already peaked?
Mr. Ramakrishna, can you hear us?
I think they are muted.
There could be a technical snag.
Yeah, I guess. Mr. Biswas, you would like to take that up?
Yeah, so as you only said, so it went up to 200 plus 220, then it now is hovering at 180. And so international, either dollars per ton, so I'm not talking about domestic. So that's very important, because as in your presentation you said 60 million tons, there's 45 million tons of iron ore and 15 million tons of pellets has been exported out of India, mostly because of high price regime internationally. And pellets are at a premium of $70 to finds in the international market. So such high prices actually taking out iron ore outside India, and the domestic availability is reducing in a way. So the domestic prices are high, and it's very difficult to say that whether prices will again come down. But depending on these mines that are getting auctioned, like the Kasia mine, which is a good mine, and it was producing and it starts production. So depending on the cost position, whether they will be able to reduce the prices, I am not sure. The price discovery would happen by the cost position of these mines, I would say. So they will be forced to at a higher price to have the profits. Depend whether, assuming that the bid percentage will be 65% or 70%. I'm not assuming an aggressive bid of 100%. Then all these conjectures are not there at all. So whether if it is 60-70% or 80, that roundabout that bit percentage, then only the availability will increase at a lower cost position and the price will come down. Otherwise, we have to wait and watch the international markets, how the Chinese government take action against curbing the prices, whether the tussle between China and Australia, whether it enhances or reduces, whether the material movement between Brazil, China, Australia smoothens out. So how the freight rates have gone up very high, as you can see, how it happens. So all those factors have been taken into account. And once that international price comes down, the domestic availability will increase and the price will come down. But in the short term, it seems that the prices will be high, and unlikely that these 4 mines that are getting auctioned, these are out of 4 mines, 1 mine is of some material mine. The Kasia mine is a material mine, all the other mines are very small. Will have any impact on the prices in Odisha or internationally, I believe alone. Anything from your side, Nidha? We would like to hear your opinion also on this.
Yes, personally, from the margins point of view, that we have been hearing that that's they have already peaked. So yeah, that is what we have been hearing so far. That there are comparatively less chances of any further sharp hike that we can expect from domestic iron ore prices in India. That's it from my end, sir. Nirmala sir, over to
We
you.
would also have liked to have Mr. Ramakrishna's views on the pricing outlook.
Sir, I think he's facing some technical issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I think one last question to Mr. Jaina, and then we can wrap up the today's session.
Yes.
Yeah, sir, considering the fact that many people are saying that 80% is the requirement dispatch under NDPA. So, but mines don't have that life. Many mines have 15 to 20 years of life, and production at that level to fulfill that kind of a requirement will only lead to degradation of the mine and over mining and resource depletion. So, sir, what is your take on this?
This aspect I would answer as a mining engineer, basically, and as a technocrat, not as a government officer. You see, the threshold value of the mineral is going down by the time. One engineer that it came down to 60, then it came down to 60, 58, then 55, now it is 45. And as you know, iron ore can be benefited from by simply washing. Crushing and washing, it can be improvised. So those will be the days when we'll be working with the 20% of iron ore also. It is not far away. I believe by 2050, we'll be working with the 20% of iron ore, and we'll be benefiting and we'll be working. This is not a dialogue of Joint Director Mines. This is a dialogue of Dr. Yusuf Jaina, who is a very research oriented and a very grassroots level mining engineer. So this is my own opinion. So the mine will not die, certainly. The 20% of, if you will be working out to 20% of iron ore and beneficiary within the leasehold area, fill the waste and take 20% of iron ore. I would give the example of graphite. Earlier in India, 80% plus graphite was sold and were mined out and sold. Now you will see 2% of graphite is being worked in Bandhavali, in the Kalahani district. They have put 3 plants within the leasehold area. Whatever air they are taking out, they are putting it to the plant. The mechanism is very simple: crush it, put some palm oil so that the upper layer of the water will be thickened, and the slurry is allowed to go through a drain. And the graphite is being having very less specific gravity. It floats along with the palm oil, and that is being extracted. And 2% of mines is viable, and they have been working very nicely. So 20% of iron ore, if you want to work, then it is not a far up site. It can be also done. So you see the whatever reserve has been estimated, that is based upon the G2 level of prospecting. So we have been, the rule says that the lessee, when once he gets the leads, he has to prospect it up to G1 level. And when it is being done, the upper grade of prospecting is done, some more quantity is being estimated. And if the threshold value goes down, and the dump, whatever dump has been thrown out when the 60% of iron ore was, the grade of iron ore was 65, and less than 65 was thrown in the dump. Dump working is also a feasible one. So considering those cases, so the leads, it will, by simply stating that these contains this much of this million ton of iron ore, and it will be finished by this time. I'm afraid because since 40 years as a student, as a trainee, as a mining engineer in different capacity, I've been looking at. So there is not a threat that the mining will be finished by certain year. It will be continuously done, and it will be continuously continuing for further period, because the threshold value will be going down and down, and the mechanism would be coming up for beneficiating and upgrading. So my answer would be that to this question. And whatever theoretically, yes, 80% of our last 2 years production and dispatch, whatever the XLC has been done, that would be the target. And if one fails on that, the penalty clause is there. And as you know, the rules are also getting amended very frequently. This is the rule now. What would happen after 5 years also cannot be speculated. The rules are, in fact, made on the considering this current situation. Because if the situation will prevail upon something else, the rule will also be amended. So not to panic much on just theoretically thinking. Whatever I've seen in my past 40 years of mining engineering, so I don't think anything is there to really panic.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Mr. Biswas? Yes, sir. You would like to?
Yes. I agree with Dr. Jaina, and the fact is that IBM has been reducing the cutoff, and it has 45%. And the resource is increasing, so it will reduce further in future as we deplete more of high-grade resources and we go into low-grade, and the mine life will increase. But only the caveats, the issue is that I would say the price ladder between high-grade and the low-grade. Okay, so if you see China does beneficiation of this low-grade ore, because China produces around 1 billion tons of iron ore, okay, and they produces 350 to 400 million tons of concentrate out of that. And these are not magnetite ore, just grinding and then just magnetic separation. It's not that. They just siliceous ore, just like our Karnataka ore and Goa ore. They wash it, they fine grind it, wash it, reduction roasting, then magnetic separation, and there's a lot of R&D from the companies and universities that goes in for converting this low-grade ore. And during high price regime, they also process ores of 20% iron content, as low as that. And Chinese are targeting mines across the globe which are Fe of 40%, because already mines of high Fe mines have been taken by the big miners, as we all know. So they have been targeting all these mines and they have been doing it. So as a country strategy, they are not going for 100% import dependence. They are going with this strategy of low-grade beneficiation, but that is enabled by commercial viability. As I said, the price between high-grade and low-grade has to be there so as to absorb this cost of beneficiation, reduction roasting, magnetic separation, because this is a huge cost. This cost, if one has to incur, and also on top of it has to have the profit. You have to make a profit out of it. So 15% profit. You have to absorb the capital charge because these are fixed assets that is to be built. So the price between these two has to be quite significant, 5,000, 6,000 rupees, between the two price. Otherwise, this cost cannot be absorbed. So maybe the government has to come in pair. So this low grade ore, there should be no royalty at all. There should be no bid premium. You have to make it very cheap. But high grade ore has to be very costly. The price has to be there, the ladder has to be there, otherwise this cost. Otherwise, these miners like OMC, I don't take names, any miners will be very difficult to justify beneficiation, converting this very low grade 30% ore to high grade. Because these are professionally managed companies and their board approve such projects based on the IRR and the NPVs. And the banks justifies those commitments, financial commitments, So every technological breakthrough has to be made commercialized through economic viability. That's my point of view. But surely the things in future will change. So the crux is that because of in India, but that's a crux for low grade beneficiation. If India didn't have high grade ore, then possibly low grade beneficiation would have been much better here in India.
Thank you, sir, for that valuable insight anyway. Yes, I would like to thank all the panelists today for the brainstorming session that we had and the valuable insights that they shared with us. Thank you so much, members in the audience also, for sharing their insights, and we also fielded a few questions, but time is a constraint, so we have to wrap it up now. Thank you all so very much for joining Steelmint, and do watch out this space for more events in the future. Thank you so much.